Hello ladies and gentlemen, we haven't done a YouTube video for ages and I humbly apologize for the lack of my uploads. I have got an excuse, I always do. This time around my excuse is that I have been actually very sick. There is this crazy amount of pollen concentration in Canberra and it seems like I'm allergic to it. So I spent the past 2 weeks barking, also known as coughing. Yeah, except 100 times more hardcore than that. So that was the reason of my absence from my channel. Now today I'm still cutting it short because I'm still recovering in terms of my voice, and for that reason we are doing an inside my head when we are going to try the Sicilian Pausen, very often somewhat weirdly referred to as the Khan, which more often than not ends up, especially against the e4 c4 setup, in a Hedgehog setup. And the Hedgehog is a very exciting structure that I really do enjoy playing with both colors, but in particular as black. It was very popular in the 80s. Hungarian and Romanian grandmasters added a lot to its theory, and yeah, it has become quite a reliable weapon. Especially since knowing the structure is actually more important in most lines of the Hedgehog than knowing theory, which is one of the very few advantage, not very few, but one of the what I was going to say is that it's an advantage that we don't really get too often in an opening, that we don't have to know accurate move orders, but rather understanding the structure. Did I have knight e4? No, I didn't. Good. Okay. And by the way, what he's doing, these two bishops are oddly placed. So usually the bishop is back on e3 and he plays f3. That's a stock standard setup. Out here on g5, I don't know. I might be able to capitalize on this bishop later on, or rather the misplacement of that bishop. But for the time being, I'm completing development castles, and you can already see the main features of the Hedgehog, these 4 pawns that basically cover every single square along the 5th rank. So whilst I sort of surrendered my fight for the middle and have given white a significant spatial advantage in the center, ooh, that looks very bad. So this usually is a move to be avoided in all Sicilians, when the bishop is wedged between these 2 pawns and f4 hasn't been played. If f4 has been played, this is totally okay. But now I get knight e5 and trade the bishop off any time I want. And it also hinders his play a great deal in terms of there's not much he can do now. So I will play knight e5 right away. So now he can't play for f4. b4 is a bit iffy now, especially because c4 is hanging. But overall, the point is that this bishop is utterly misplaced. So once again, after f4, bishop f3 is acceptable. Mind you, here f3 was desired to make this bishop's diagonal very, very blunt. But again, in that structure, the bishop needs to be on e3, eyeing this way, and just very securely tucked away on e3 is a better way to go. So yeah, now he has got a few things to worry about. I'm almost inclined to say that at one point he will have to go back. But of course it's not doable because the e4 pawn is hanging. So he's already in a fair bit of trouble. He plays b3, thinking that I was hunting the pawn. I never was. I always want to take that. But there is no hurry about grabbing the bishop, and that's again a typical mistake that amateur players commit a lot, that when they see a threat they execute it very often prematurely. It would have been a great relief for white if I had taken, because then after queen takes, he now doesn't have to worry about this take anymore and can organize his pieces. Whereas now, this is constantly looming above his head and he can't really develop his pieces meaningfully because he always has to reckon with my capture here, followed by taking this. So you can see right now that if I had taken, then after queen f3 he would have taken back. Now if I take on f3, then he went there in 2 moves. But again, I feel not really pressured into this capture at all, because by putting the queen on e2, he actually is now wedging this bishop in even more ridiculously between all of those dudes. So now I'm developing my rook, looks totally meaningless. And in fact, anytime you can put a heavy on the same file with your opponent's queen or king, it does create a little bit of stress. It does do that trick indeed. Alright, bishop f4 is a weird move, because if there is one thing that I would like even more than taking this, is him to take me here. Because then my dark squared bishop will become an absolute boss. I get control of the d4 square, and things are looking really, really rosy. Having said that, now I've got a few tactical tricks to consider. Knight f3 is met by knight f3, only move, otherwise e5 wins. But that's good enough. Now what I'm thinking is that if there was one thing that was better than take and take, when after knight c2 he still defends this, although then I have b5. Showcasing a very, very famous and typical hedgehog motif, so I will go for it. I think in a normal long time game I would play here knight of d7, backing up the knight and also hinting coming around here. Hitting knight d3 and sort of massaging that pawn too, but I'm hoping he's going to take so that I can demonstrate a very common theme in the hedgehog, which is that after take knight c2 I will have b5. So what black is aiming to do in the hedgehog traditionally is to break out eventually with one of these two pawn moves. Now sometimes circumstances are so good that I don't even need to do that. Our current case is such, because I can grab a bishop and excuse me, and just be a happy chappy. Okay, he didn't fall for it. As in, when I say didn't fall for it, he didn't go for it. Now, next level up, which is still a very common motive in the hedgehog, is that black often tucks the queen away here to further pressure this pawn. And the point of this move also is that it somehow makes this pressure more annoying on the c file, because now my queen is not in the front. So what I have done to him here with my rook being on the same file of his queen, he has done that to me here, but now I'm sidestepping it. I no longer have to worry about any of the c file tricks, and in fact often I go queen a8, putting further pressure here. And if you remember that after knight f3 you can't take back with anything but the knight, otherwise e5 wins. That means that after queen a8 I'm threatening to take and pick up this cherry here. Alrighty, let's see how we go. The other thing is that a lot of the times people think that the d6 pawn is weak in the hedgehog, or just in general in these structures. And actually nothing is further from the truth, because it is essentially impossible to attack. Because the only way to get around this pawn is to put a knight here or here, which is totally impossible. And now we managed to demonstrate the key theme, and he collapsed under pressure instantly. So what happened here was that he dropped back, and now we get to play b5. The trick behind this move is that the pawn is immune to capture, because the knight is hanging on c3. And so if I take, we are creating a very weak isolated pawn on c4 that I would have targeted. Now he wanted to avoid the isolated pawn, and so he played knight e3, but thereby he actually blundered this pawn and the game away with that. So now we can comfortably call it GG. G to that G is the G. The rook is hanging, and after rook a1 I can virtually come back with the bishop anywhere, because the pin on the c file still guarantees that this can't happen. I really would like to come back here, mind you, because then I would like to put that in his face on d4. So after rook a1, bishop c5 takes, bishop d4 takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. Yeah, nah, that got a little bit messier than I would have liked. It breaks my heart, because I always want to put all my pieces on perfect squares, and when I can't do that it makes me grumpy. So bishop c5 takes, bishop takes, then queen takes back, defends the knight. Okay, I have to suck up and just... Actually, let me just think for a sec. Thinking is good in chess. Sometimes I underestimate the power of that. I didn't want to come here because the knight a2 hits the bishop with a tempo and then this is hanging again. So let's just come back. It's all good. We have harvested what we needed to harvest. The pawn is still pinned. It's all G. And next up we might go for b4, knight a4, queen back, knight d7, knight c5, trade the knights off, and then eventually plant the bishop in his face on d4 again. Note how most of my plans are revolving around the fact that I have got full control of these dark squares, courtesy of his trading here. I don't know why my mouse scrolling no longer moves the pieces. Why is that? Can anyone tell me why that is? It's weird. Usually when I scroll the mouse it moves the pieces. And now it doesn't. Why? Huh, strange. Anyway, yeah, so our beloved opponent is somewhat dead here. And whilst I was hoping to deliver a better message about the Hedgehog, one thing that we learned is that bishop on f3, like so, is really, really awfully misplaced. Oh, we have a move to make. Okay, let's go. Now I've got knight d7 without having to play queen c7 because he removed the knight, the rook from the d file, so that's handy. So knight c5 is the plan with the eventual conquer of the d4 square. So yeah, bishop on f3 is really, really misplaced when it's wedged in between two pawns like so. And if I can float this idea of trading it off, it almost always leads to black having the upper hand. He's playing a little bit of help chess here. He went rook c1, then rook d1 back. Would be quite funny if he went back again, but that's not going to happen. If he takes, I take. And if he plays rook d7, then after bishop d4, I'm going to attack that. But really the main point of the move is to separate this rook from the rest of the board, I suppose, and trap the rook with bishop c6. But that wasn't to happen because he's being a little bit annoying. So we'll kick this rook out. Hopefully he's gonna go there, forcing me to play a5, then bishop c6, and then push, push, push. This pawn structure is always a unique one because I have the opportunity to go a5 and eventually a4, creating a passed b pawn, whereas he already has a passed pawn, in fact a protected one, but it's actually a waste of space, dead weight, because I'm blockading it on the dark squares. There is no way that this pawn is ever going to be able to represent itself as any source of danger. And in fact, if you imagine this whole entire position, it's a very interesting thought. With all pieces of the board, literally everything except for kings and pawns, then I have got the possibility to create a distant or outside pass pawn, whilst this, I can easily be in fact I still am in the square of. So even if it were to become a pawn ending, my chances would be far better here to cause some trouble because my king is very quick here. Play a4, I might get a queen there. Yeah, I decided to call it quits. Entertain me. I hope he is. No, he no rematch. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can find a quick new opponent because that was a little bit underwhelming. If not, then we're going to do a quick analysis of what happened. Doesn't look like we are getting much love. Okay, let's have a look at this game again. Yeah, 1600, I guess, might not get instructional enough, or instructive enough rather. Alright, so what do? I request a computer analysis. Although I'm pretty sure I can analyze it myself, but hey, for fun, why not coconut? So we went into this, and I did tell you that f3 was the correct way to play it. He went bishop f3. Look at that. from plus from 0.9, which in my opinion is severely exaggerated, but the computer absolutely is obsessed with space advantage in most openings. So from 0.8 we go minus 0.3. Wow, that's next level. But we have a game, so let's do that. And Rakshan is our opponent, and we are going to do d4 today because I can't remember the last time I did d4, and I would like to please my d4 viewers, and we seem to have a Slav here on our hands. No, he's actually going to play either the Node Boom or the Stonewall. Okay, let's see Node Boom. Node Boom is d takes c4 here. Oh my word. So this is when you play this move when you want to decide that it's time to quit and go and play checkers or backgammon. So this is not move, not acceptable. Don't do that, kids. It's not good for you. I really feel, I wouldn't say sorry, but some kind of that type of feeling like sorry for people who play like this, because I really would like to go and tell them that this is rubbish, don't do it, mate. But yeah, I can't. I know that it sounds very, 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 I don't know what the right word is, that one that people always call me on the channel. Anyway, so look at that. Development, Castle King versus Nada. Condescending, yes. I know it does sound very condescending. And there is not an awful lot I can do about it, and there is not an awful lot I want to do about it, because yeah, I would like to help these people by telling them not to do this. I'm being 100% honest and genuine. Okay, it's not the best way to play this, but I'm really keen to play g4, g5, and I can't do that because this horse is hanging. So there are a few ways to go about it. Rook e3 as a rook lift does appeal to me, but then he has got c5, and after dc knight c, yeah, all of a sudden this rook on e3 is looking a bit weird. So why don't we go bishop e4? Because now c5 I have d5. If he goes there, then we are going to apply another beautiful chess principle. This is so good that we get to demonstrate some of these. So it's the knight is controlling the center, right? And in fact it supports some of his breakouts. So when the knight leaves the center like so, our first and foremost gut instinct is to conquer the center like so. And now unfortunately for him, c5 is met by c takes, and he can't even take this because I check him down. I knew he would do that. So now we have got two choices. One, just ignore it and continue with our attack on the other wing, which is what we are going to do. Or B, ignore it and continue our attack on the other wing, which is what we are going to do. Now this would allow a queen trade, and there is no way that we are going to do that. However, now things are getting a little bit exciting in a different way, because if he goes back, I can actually force queens off and turn it into a very instructive looking endgame. But he seems to be absolutely desperate about losing his queen. Wow. f5. Not the move I expected, let me tell you that much. Okay, so he obviously got really nervous about losing his queen, although I did not have an instant threat, because h3, queen h4, h5, g4, queen h4 would have successfully hidden the queen on a dark square where I can't attack it. But I do think that there was a lot of trouble there for the queen. Now, there is a no-brainer that we need to take this, right? So what it does is that it cracks the position a little bit more open in this area where we want to play, and secondly, it does create a giant weakness in shape of this pawn. Now rook d8 seems very tempting. Rook f8, bishop h7 check, king f7. That looks like a half win already. Do we have anything better? Okay, I will just do this. In fact, after rook f8, I can even just simply play queen d2. Like, this queen is so poorly misplaced. Look at that, it can't actually go anywhere. So if I go here, does he have e5 though? Takes, queen d8, king f7. Whoa, boy. Oh boy, it looks like you are signing up for disaster. Nah. So this is a drama of the disconnected rooks and the undeveloped bishop. And this is usually a consequence, stupid it may sound, of a move like this. So when you play a move like this, it doesn't have an instant response to it that kills it. It has got long-lasting effects. Actually, it does have instantaneous effects. You lost the center forever. And you have got now very, very, very poor development. But as you can see, it sort of fizzled out in a long run effect where this guy never got into the game and never will, in fact. Or it will be way too late by the time it does. Not sure if I played everything correctly in the opening phase. But I suppose until then it was all good. Oh yes, this is another thing that I come across. I'm so glad that I stopped here and I didn't even comment on this move. A lot of the times when I ask my students would castle here and I go like, why there? And the mere fact I ask the question shocks them. And then, but this is not safe, would the answer come. And I'm like, what do you actually mean it's not safe? And then they would say, well, it's not safe because the pawn has already moved, and so there are weak squares and it's attackable. And I'm like, right, with what? And how? Because what people don't really understand about king safety is that king safety usually is defined by two things. How much stuff you have in front of the king is the ultimate measure for most people, and for that reason they would immediately go for castle here because it's safely covered and this one is not. However, there is another element to this, and that is central control, which really comes down to the fact that if you dominate the middle of the board like I am in this position, it is a physical impossibility for the black pieces to get here and attack me. That can't happen. Like, not because of I'm saying it and my rating is higher than yours. It can't happen because you just can't possibly and physically get there. And therefore, this king is no weaker here than it would be here. Sorry, if I castled this way. Oh, wow, I'm struggling with the buttons. So, he claiming that this king is weak is nonsense. And the other thing that I very often say to my students when it's a little bit less crystal clear than this case is that if it is weak, there is a line that proves it weak. Tell me the line. I don't have one. Well then, either it is weak or it is not. So people don't understand that there is more to assessing a position like this than taking this one component and none other into the equation, which by the way is going to be the topic of my next Amateur's Mind video, so be on the lookout for that one because I hope to make it a very, very instructive one. Okay, so my plan was to take queen d8 shach, king up and pawn takes, followed by this check here. Oh, it allows queen g5 queen trade though. I knew there was something not right with this. I also feel we should have a cleaner win than that. So I could go check again. King here. Check, king takes. Check, king up. And then I have got bishop check or queen check on g8. So let's go with bishop check, king g6. Boy, how is that not made? Queen e8 check. King here, pawn takes, king up. Here, mate. Okay. I don't really like this move because I think that after the exchange sec, they might hope to stir some tricks, but let's just go for this because that line that I calculated I really did like. No, he wasn't going to allow me to do that. His main problem now, though, is that as soon as his pawn is gone, I'm really going to go to town on both the bishop and the king. And there is no such scenario in this game from this point on that means that this pawn is not gone. Because he either has to take or push, or I will take him. The position is so good, though, that after takes, I think, objectively best. Oh! Actually, funnily enough, after this, I've got almost fours mate with queen d3 check. You can't block on f5 because that's attacked, and if queen g6, that's a famous motive to win that queen like so. Wow. So as a matter of fact, my number one threat here is a check on the diagonal. Although after g6, I only have a winning follow-up. Okay, I don't understand this move. Okay, so let's go Schach. So the idea is if g6, then rook e5, and we defended this. That's why he went back there, by the way. He wanted to take this with a check. And now I win the queen like so. So that was the motive I was referring to. It's the famous win of the queen. And that was that game. So yeah, I don't want to preempt my previous video, sorry, my next video, that once again I'm going to dedicate to a certain one-sided thinking without giving too much away. So I'm not going to talk much more about this queenside castle, but I would like to add as much as this. Usually, when you see that your opponent is clearly having only one direction to castle, I tend to castle the opposite side, especially in a position where my development and my central control is superior, simply because this gives me not only a very easy plan, but also this is the fastest way to win the game. Because let's say I castled here, yeah? Just for argument's sake, I really want to show you this. I castle here, they castle there. What's my plan now? My plan now is to virtually to grind it out, disallowing both of these breaks, maybe building up some extra queenside tension and eventually create a weakness, then hunt it down and win the endgame. Yeah? That takes about 35 moves. Now once I castle here, you ask me what my plan is? My plan is to destroy this king like crazy. So he castles. I play queen e3 and plan g4, h4, g5, and I want to rip his head off. And this is so much easier to find the plan, so much easier to execute, and so much more pressure on the opponent that these three not only outweigh but absolutely ridicule any other option that is not castling here. And of course we could argue that yes, but what if they castle there? Well, if you look at the position now, good luck for them to castle there, because if they try to do that, there is every chance they will get stuck. Although the main line, actually, the computer reckons this is the best survival chance to try to get the heck out that way so that I can't execute that attack. I'm a bit reluctant to believe they get away with this. Don't I have some d5 stuff? Maybe d5, knight c5 is a bit painful. Okay, maybe they could have got away with it, but the point is crystal clear. As soon as they go there, we have got the clear plan. And something similar happened to that. And I was also hinting an endgame, which could have occurred here. And although this is by no means my favorite move, you can see that the assessment doesn't really change after the queens are off the board, because this bishop is a cluster disaster. And it's never going to come out, and the vast majority of the pawns are going to remain on white, fixed on white. White's position is clearly winning here. So, that was the inside my head today. Once again, guys, I apologize for my long absence, as hopefully it was not too badly demonstrated. It was due to my coughing like mad. There we go. But now I'm planning on returning with far more regular uploads, so stay tuned, more to come. Thank you very much. Bye.